Welcome to another edition of the Southern Comfort Podcast. I'm your boy, Big Rich,
Kevin Harris.
and we are the boys of the Maroon Bison. Kev, how we doing today, bro?
Doing good, man. Glad to be back in Florida.
Good.
Spent the last week on the road, and I don't understand. This is like the longest winter ever. I don't understand why it's still cold.
Well, I mean, you're back in Florida now, so it's what, 70 degrees today,
It,
80?
it's like 75 today.
Yeah. Actually, we're getting up to 80 today too, so
Yep.
it's that spring, not so spring. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much next week they'll be like, here, hold my beer
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
watch winter come back for a little one more
W-
week.
One more little brush. Yeah. But nah, man. It's good. I don't know. It just seems like it's been a long early part of the year. In some ways, I can't. It feel like it's been a long winter, and I can't believe that it's just March. It feels like it should be later. It's been a first couple 2 months, 2 3 months of the year has been kind of long, a lot.
So are you saying that you can't believe it's March, like it came up quick, or it's just,
I
because
can't believe it's just March. It feels like this year has been going on for 7 or 8 months, but we're just in March.
yeah, I mean, the things they say to you, but they don't say to you when you're a child, right? Like
Hmm.
they say,
Hmm.
"Oh, you don't want to get old, or you don't want to be an adult," and
Yeah.
it's like, but why?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I think we need to adjust it, right? You're not a grown up till you're 30. Let me stay a
Something.
kid, let me just
Something.
just change it, right?
A transition into adulthood allowance or something, right? That kicks in at like 23, from 23 to 30,
Man,
you know,
oh, oh.
just get a few monthly payments for a few years.
Let me stay on that insurance till I'm
Yeah,
30.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right? Hey, it's a little transition.
Ugh. But nah, man, yeah, it's one, we're still, like, in this, like this show is, I guess, still fairly new, right? We're still new,
Yeah.
we're still growing. Uh, we've always tried to get the episodes out on Tuesday, but just when you realize our schedules and how things are going in the news cycle, like so much is happening, right? Like so much is happening, so much to talk about. We're recording this on a Saturday morning. This is probably dropping like 4 or 5 days. So this is
Mhm.
the first week of March. Uh, and of course, again, we call this the Southern Comfort Podcast. And in our Southern Comfort signature move, I want to open up about with culture, right? Not crisis. Before we get into what we're going to talk about today, which is, I think we're going to focus on Iran, for whom the bell gnomes. And of course, the Texas primary was earlier this week.
Mhm.
Um, but you and I are both born in Atlanta.
Mhm.
When we started recording the podcast, we recorded in the ATL
Mhm.
in studio. Shout out to our guy Dre. Dre, we're gonna get back soon.
Mhm.
And the Spark Social Studio. But Atlanta's in the middle of some controversy right now. I think it's a perfect way to talk about everything about this show. And I'm not gonna say something that has defined the city, because it definitely didn't define the city, but it's become a big part of the Atlanta culture. And that is Magic City. No, we don't call Atlanta the Magic City. There's a particular institution
Mm.
in Atlanta called Magic City, and for
Mhm.
those who aren't aware, Atlanta is well known for its strip club culture.
Mhm.
In my mind, I think we have some of the best strip clubs in the world. Although I haven't been to any other strip clubs outside of America, but
I have,
uh,
and I would agree Atlanta is
I
yeah.
so I've been told,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, back in my collegiate days,
Mhm.
I was perfect attendance at a strip club, basically. There was, I mean, if you got in, so when we were in school, it was 2000s, right? The recession was a big thing. And, The way that strip clubs will market to the clientele is,
Mhm,
you want a cheap meal, come to the strip club. You could get $5 steaks. You get in free,
mhm,
$5 steaks, sometimes a
mhm,
2-drink minimum. I mean, when you balling on a budget and, what better way to go to the strip club?
mhm, mhm.
And
But see,
so
people don't believe that. They
Magic
think
City
people
is just
t
look, I've seen meetings, business meetings conducted in the strip club, guys in
Mhm.
suits sitting at a table, like, on some like, having full out discussions about business, right?
Yeah.
And the music was at a minimum, and this is in the middle of the day. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, so, Magic City and the controversy is surrounded by the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta
Mhm,
Hawks are playing, the Orlando Magic on Monday. Everybody knows that on Mondays, it's called Magic City Mondays. You go to the strip club. Magic City is directly in the heart of downtown, right there, 2 blocks away from City Hall, 2 blocks away, actually across the street from the Greyhound station, 2 blocks from the jail, right? Like, the train station is right above Magic City. So you can get to it easily. But the Hawks owner, Jamie Gertz, which is an actress, if you've seen the movie Twister, she played one of the characters in Twister.
mm,
She did a documentary that you can find on Hulu about Magic City, the culture, what it means to the city, the artistry, right? Like beyond what it means. They're known for having great wings, right? Like
mhm.
it's an establishment. And they decided as a promotional thing to get more people to come to the game, to pay homage to this, they would make a Magic City Monday night, which is great. New promotion, materials, clothing. There's a couple of players in the NBA that spoke out about it, said that the NBA should protest it. This is disrespectful to women, and it's caused a little brouhaha controversy. And so, I see both sides of the arguments, but it's all injustice and fun. You know,
It's a part of the city and the
it's a part
culture,
of
and if those same people, who are talking about as disrespectful to women, if they haven't spoken out against about the pay inequity and the disparate treatment that the WNBA
boom.
players get, even though it's all the same ownership, then don't talk now. Like, people are sick of, like, superficial, advocacy and
Right,
outrage, right?
right,
So you're
right.
outraged about this and you want to speak up about this, but you don't want to speak about the stuff that actually impacts women, right? When they pulling back reproductive rights, when they won't expand Medicaid and things like that in Georgia, did you release a statement then talking about disrespect to women? No, you didn't. So we don't want to hear from you now. This is about the culture. And if you felt that strongly about it, then how about this then? You don't play and you take your salary from that game and you donate it to a girl. Hey, Spelman College right there. There you go. Donate
So
it to Spelman then if you that pissed off and don't want to play.
that is one thing that I've always appreciated about you, Kevin. You always find that angle that I never realized and opened eyes to, right? Like he has been him and Luke
Mhm,
Cornett with the San Antonio Spurs,
mhm.
and a former Atlanta Hawk who spent, I'm sure, I think over 10, 12 years here. Al Horford spoke up against it, right? But I haven't heard or seen anything about the current fight that his fellow WNBA players are facing in
No.
terms of where they're trying to negotiate a better contract for themselves. And so,
Right,
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 when you talk about that, if you're gonna be an advocate for women, be an advocate for women in all aspects.
right.
Not this because, right, like when you talk about the women who've come out of Magic City who are of course strippers at Magic City, they're also small business owners.
Yeah.
They go on and they're there to pay sometimes their bills while they're in college and see that as a path to get them out of whatever problem or situation they're in, right?
Mhm,
But we're
mhm,
talking about women who own small businesses here in Atlanta, daycares, shops,
mhm,
CPA firms, right?
mhm,
They go on to do bigger and better things, and it's supporting the economy. So,
mhm.
I see what he says, but on the other side, like, where are you on this side of the story and history? So,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we got honest to God problems, and this ain't one of them. And I think it's actually kind of like a bold, not just marketing, but just a bold move for management in Atlanta to just understand the community and really try to engage all parts of the community because, like I've said to you before, I don't really like going to Miami Dolphins game down here because that is not reflective of the community to go watch the Miami Dolphins and the way they've kind of put everything together in the programming and stuff. But Atlanta, whether it's the Falcons or the Hawks, they've always done a great job of that. And so I really don't see what the problem or what the outrage would be. I think this is the most Atlanta shit ever, and I love it. I think
Right.
it's great. I won't be able to make the game, but I think it's great. And the last thing I'll say too is anybody that got to go see Usher, right? You saw Magic City.
You saw Magic
You
City.
saw Magic City if you saw
Right.
Usher in Vegas. Yeah.
And I mean, and honestly, it is an art form,
It
right?
is.
If you just put a leotard on them, they're ballet dancers.
Man, and the core strength that you have to have. I mean, those are Olympians, okay? The core strength to go up to the ceiling on a okay,
Would
you let me see you do that. You know,
will pole dancing become an Olympic sport?
if certain people
I
take an interest in it, then yeah, you see they got break dancing,
was
but it
about to say
wasn't
break
us.
dancing.
It wasn't us though. But if certain we'll let them start it and then we'll have to come in and like actually, dominate it. But yeah. It's true.
You know who wouldn't have a problem with Magic City Monday?
Who?
Donald Trump.
They might be too old for him in there. Oh, wait a minute. Did I say that? No, no. I think he likes them young. I mean, according to the latest, the files are still drip, drip, dripping out. That's what's in the last batch. So I'm
Okay,
just saying. It's true.
what a way to transition because we
Mhm.
are. What a
It's a
way to
perfect
transition.
transition because this too is about this. What you about to bring up, Iran, is about distracting from them files. So it's a perfect transition.
Right. No, I mean it is. For many reasons, right? Like I remember, we always see old tweets that circulate, and some of his old tweets circulated about if Obama wants to distract the world, he's going to mark my words, he's going to enter in a fight with Iran. And
Mhm.
lo and behold, right, like art imitating life.
Mhm.
Here he
Mhm.
goes, right,
Mhm.
trying to pull a rabbit out of his hat and show you a magic trick, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Look over here while I do this.
Yep.
Um, and so, right now, I think we we are entering the world of unknown. I think for the last 8 days, Iran and the U.S./Israel have entered into a war um, that Congress had nothing to do with to get involved, right? And so now I think um, to our public, because this is a teaching podcast, I think we kind of need to break down how we got here in the first place.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, this goes back decades, right?
Right.
This goes back decades where we've kind of had a problematic relationship with the Iranians. And in terms of like the most relevant history, I think the most important things to know are we did enter, our issues with Iran center around, I would say, a couple things. One, we do not want the Iranians to develop nuclear weapons program. That's number one. Number two, the Iranians have control over Hezbollah, which is a terrorist organization, and through Hezbollah as their proxy, they can inflict different terrorist attacks. Some of that has been directed at America, but very limited in terms of its ability to actually impact us on American soil. Um, the Iranians also have a broad missile program. Most of them are short to medium range missiles, so they can't necessarily reach our borders here. But what you're seeing is that a lot of surrounding countries are getting those missiles because that's as far as they go, and that's how they're retaliating. And that's unfortunately how they killed some of our troops that were based in the region. So again, not so much of a threat to us here in the United States, but our allies in the region and different things like that definitely are impacted by this. And then the way it really hits us too is 20% of the global oil supply passes through um, that region. And right now, basically, they're having a hard time going in and getting the oil and getting it out safely. And so you've seen gas prices rise uh, sharply in just a week and possibly are going to continue to go up even more despite, uh, different efforts that the Trump administration is taking to try to mitigate that. But the most important thing to know is that Barack Obama negotiated an agreement where we had monitoring.
Mhm.
The Iranians were not developing nuclear weapons. We had insight into it, and this was largely contained. Trump comes in and destroys that agreement, pulls us out of that agreement. Same thing with like the climate Paris Accord and things like that. Just pulled us out of it because it was Obama. And so the Iranians were saying, well, if there's no agreement, then we need to start developing weapons to protect ourselves. And so they start back to enrich uranium. We then go in with Israel and we bomb them again, right? Remember a couple weeks ago, not a couple weeks ago, earlier in his term, this term here, we bombed them the first time, and supposedly that was supposed to decimate their ability to get nuclear weapons. And then now here we've come back again where, they've given conflicting reasons for why we had to go this time. They said that they were redeveloping their nuclear weapons. Well, I thought you just told us that we blew all that up a few weeks ago. That doesn't sound right. Now you're saying, oh, the negotiations weren't going well and they were trying to develop long range missiles that could hit the United States within weeks. There's no intelligence assessment that backs that conclusion. And so where we are now is that the most immediate threat is actually to Israel, not the United States. Israel is the actual country that could be actually attacked in a devastating way by the Iranians, not the United States. Israel, for decades, has been trying to find a U.S. president that would
To
go into this adventure with them. And they finally got their sucker in Donald Trump. And that is why this is happening, right? That is why there was no imminent threat to the United States of America here. The imminent threat was and has always been to Israel. And Israel has always wanted to do this. And if I were Israeli and in the Israeli government and I had responsibility for their interest, I would probably have the same position. But as an American, right, this doesn't make any sense for us to be doing this, which is why no other president was a sucker enough to do it, right? Except this one. Bush didn't do it. Bush said Iraq, Iran, North Korea constitute an axis of evil, but he still didn't go in and invade and bomb them to deal with the threat. No president ever came up with that being the assessment of what we needed to do, except this one, no matter how hard Israel pushed them to do it. And so we have to really see what the ramifications of this are going to be. In the short term, though, it's going to be higher gas prices for sure.
right, right. And I think, the other significance behind this is, um, during the start of this, we killed Iran's supreme leader.
Yeah.
You'll hear about they say, well, we killed the Ayatollah,
Hmm.
right? And so for folks who kind of want to understand like the significance, the historical significance around this, there have only been two supreme leaders in Iran's entire history, right? The first one built the system in the late 70s, early 80s. The second one, who we just killed, who Trump, I'm sorry, not we, who Trump just killed, Um, let me be clear, it was Trump.
Mhm.
He ran it for 36 years and now he's dead. So you're talking about um someone who basically for the last 36 years um has been taken out and their entire governing architecture has been destroyed, right? A nation
Mhm.
of what Iran is like roughly what 90 million people?
Right. 3 times the
90,
size of Venezuela.
right? 90 million people.
Mhm.
And he's taken out their supreme leader. And for folks to kind of really understand what that means, and I really had to look it up myself, right? The Ayatollah is the Arabic word for sign of God, right? And it's basically the highest scholarly position or spiritual credential a person can have in um in that culture, right? So think of it as like the highest degree that you can earn in like Islamic law theology. And so
Mhm. Mhm.
this person is so significant. He was the head of state. You know, he outranked the president, right? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
right, he controlled the military, right? He controlled the judiciary. He controlled the legislator, right? He ran foreign policy, right? Like it's a lifetime appointment. Like
Mhm.
you know, has no election, and we
Mm-mm.
took this person out, right? And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
sometimes we as Americans we get locked in our own box and think that we are the end all be all, the key ruler of the entire world, and it's not the case.
Mhm. Mhm.
And right now, right, the strike that happened on the end of February, this like joint task force, basically, we were a hired thugs for Israel, right?
Yes. Yes.
Killed 1,300 people at the time, including children, which is something it always sickens me to know that children and innocent bystanders are um, usually at the foot of something not so trivial when it boils down to stuff as simple as property or gas or oil,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and now we just don't know what the ramifications really are going to be with this. How many Americans are dead right now? Five,
I think we've lost
six.
6 of our soldiers. Um, and I think we should expect that to
Rise,
likely increase. And there is still some discussion about troops on the ground. The White House has refuted that and said that's not true, not something that they're considering. But and honestly, troops are difficult in a country that large.
right,
And so that's not something that I see as ever being wise. But this also goes into why no other president ever did it, right? And there's nothing that Trump has done so far that any other president couldn't have done. Our
right,
military could have always done this, right? But it's not about that first strike, right? We know we could do that. We know we could achieve dominance over their airspace like we've done. We will even probably be able to figure out how to safely get the oil back going, right? um, because of our military. But then that gets into a thing too, is like the idea that we're using our Navy and our military to just escort oil tank, like that's not going to sit well with people. We know our military and our oil interests in the Middle East are interconnected, but to have it be that explicit like that, that's going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. So my point is saying all of this is that we haven't even gotten to the hard part yet, right? They're doing a victory lap, patting themselves on the back at our military dominance. Military dominance we've already had. We've always known we could do it, but this is a key thing about being president. There are lots of things that you can do, but that don't mean that you should do it.
right, right,
And
right,
now we're about to get into that next phase of this things is, well, what happens the day after? And they so far have given us conflicting answers on what
right,
the plan is. They didn't even have a plan in place to get people out. They hadn't even thought about that, about how you're gonna get people out of these impacted regions, Americans. And so that's where, I think we're gonna start to get into some trouble. Because remember, right, when we went into Iraq, We toppled them and how fast we got Saddam. Go look at some of the headlines at the beginning. It looks like, dang, we rolled up on them. And then
Yeah,
we know how that ended. We
right.
know what the next year and the year after that looked like.
Well, we know that a war without clear legal justification is a war without a clear end game,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And the civic piece of this is the Constitution says that Congress is supposed to declare a war,
mm,
not the president.
mhm.
And that is not the case here. Congress was briefed after the bombs were dropped, right? Not
Right,
before,
right.
after.
And not all of Congress, the group of 8.
The Gang
8
of
key
Eight,
lead
yeah.
the gang of 8, right? 8 key leaders in Congress were told, and not even really the Democrats that are a part of that. So, not even all of Congress was told. And honestly though, I'll say this in fairness to them, all presidents play with that, right? Obama, part of the reason we relied so much on drones to do what we wanted to do is because we didn't want to go talk to Congress. It's not a war. I'm just shooting drones, right? All presidents kind of do it, and it's a judgment call on how far Congress is going to let you go as a president before they rein you in on that. Now they tolerated some of the stuff we did under the Obama administration because it was like, all right, seems to be working fine, okay. But here you start getting, we start losing soldiers. You keep spending $1 billion a day, and stuff here is getting more and more expensive. Gas is shooting up every time I go pump. Eventually, public opinion shifts rapidly enough where Congress is like, hold up, bro. You got to rein. Like, wait a minute, what you doing?
I
What you
mean,
doing?
in a time, listen, like you said, in a time where gas is what it is, the price of beef, eggs is what it is, our housing crisis is at an all-time high right
That's
now,
right.
right? People can't afford their rent. Our healthcare is a problem. It's funny how they say, well, we can't afford these things, but we can afford to take ourselves into war, right?
Right.
And we can
Right.
afford to send money overseas to help out other nations when people are hurting here. And
Right.
I think again, things were done in the wrong order of operations, how it typically
Mm-hmm.
is,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, without you know congressional authorization, you find the administration finding several ways to try to justify this act.
That's right.
We've heard three, four, five different stories about why we're doing this.
Including Israel was gonna do it anyway. Well, Israel was gonna attack them anyway, so that's why we had to jump in. What What? That doesn't make any sense. That still doesn't make it an imminent threat to
Right,
us.
right.
That's Israel jumping in that. They gotta be ready for the ramifications. It still doesn't change any of the assessments and analysis in terms of what Iran can actually do to us. If anything, you would have thought we would have been arguing against, which has been the case, them taking such action because the way it does hit us absolutely is again the oil and the energy implications, right? And so but you're right, right? The point of him having come to Congress would have been he would have had to lay out a case and justification, and the truth is they don't have a compelling one because nothing substantially or materially has changed in the assessments of the threat from Iran to justify why we would do this. There was not an imminent threat. There was no imminent threat.
So I think now the real threat is going to be to our economy, right?
It ain't a threat. It's happening.
Right.
It's happening.
Oil prices, like you said, have surged to
Surged.
$90 a barrel. I think the highest since 2023.
Yep.
Basically, what it's saying is it jumped 20 cents a gallon in the last, what, 2 or 3 days.
Yep. Yep.
Right. So, and it was funny because I was with Eb the other day
Mhm.
and we were talking outside and he was actually pumping my gas for me while I was running inside.
Mhm.
And I ran inside and came back and he was like, it's still going. He was like, how much it costs to fill up your truck?
Elle was like, "I should have signed a waiver. Hey, I'm just pumping it, bro. You still gotta pay it."
He was like, I drive a Prius. He was he was like, this is too much. This is too much. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yep.
welcome to war, baby.
Yep. Yep.
Welcome to war.
Yep. Yep, and it's only gonna continue to, um, to go up. It's straining our relationships with the Europeans, right? The Europeans are actually, in a place where they can catch some strays from this. Now we've impacted them and implicated them, and now you got Putin saying, "I don't know why y'all did that
Right.
to the Iranians.
I
I
mean,
don't think that's right that y'all did that. So I'm gonna kind of step in and help them out." And so we just have all these problems that we didn't have before, and they have not offered us a sufficient explanation because they don't have one.
so again, and this is what I think the MAGA world fails to realize and understand, right? Like they're here, but there's a whole underlayer. And when you peel back the onion of issues that
Hmm.
they don't seem to care, don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's going on globally. So like when Japan steps in and says this is a problem for our economy,
Yeah.
when you're grounding flights coming out of Dubai, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when Europe, their gas prices are doubling, like you're affecting all of us with this stupid, irrational decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, when someone asked Trump about the gas prices, he said if they rise, they rise.
Yeah.
And so this is a man who campaigned on bringing down the cost of living,
Correct.
bringing down, the cost of gas immediately on day one. It was supposed to come down. Gas, groceries, and gum is probably whatever he said, some dumb shit like that. Um, the cost of living was supposed to go down, and it has not. Right?
No. 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 And meanwhile, like I said, right now it's $1 billion a day. People are seeing that. And again, that money isn't endless. And that's another thing that tends to bring presidents to Congress is eventually you run out of money. You need Congress to appropriate new money. So even though you never got a authorization per se to go to war, usually the purse is what brings presidents back to Congress because they need money to keep funding these things, and that usually gives Congress some opportunity to try and rein things in a bit here. But people, he's saying, we'll have this sorted out in like a month. But I just think everybody just be very skeptical of that and just watch how this goes. Like we are in this for the long haul. I know it looks like it was relatively stable, right, with Venezuela. This is a whole different can of worms to engage in how we have gone about this with Iran. And if you remember nothing else, just remember that it was completely unnecessary. There was an agreement the most biggest threat to the United States was that nuclear weapon. We had an agreement in place negotiated by Barack Obama where that was not occurring. Without and we didn't commit a single troop. We didn't spend $1 billion a day. Not one day did we spend $1 billion to do that. Did Obama use different tactics, right? It wasn't just carrots, it was some sticks too. People forget the cyber attack we did against the Iranians under Obama. We completely took all their systems offline. Smart diplomacy. Wasn't nothing soft about what he was doing, but it's being smart. He could have done every missile or missiles that we had, right? That Trump just shot over there to help do this. These were missiles that existed under Obama and all the other presidents. But again, just because you can do something don't
Don't
mean
mean you
you
should.
should do
Don't mean you
something,
should.
and he doesn't understand that nuance. And now we are in a situation where costs are gonna go up on the American people because of it.
You know, I as the world turns, there's going to be more and more to this story, and so we've given our folks just a little taste and thought about what's going on, and hopefully, to our MAGA subscribers, because we have some, we want you guys to see this, and I definitely think you guys are. Hey, you're starting to see the picture. You're seeing what's going on. Okay, um, let's switch gears now to another clown has dropped out the clown show.
No,
And
boy.
when we talk about the clown, Trump's clown show has lost another one. The first one, actually, the first cabinet clown is what I'm gonna call her
Mm,
to get fired in
mm,
his second term, and that is Kristi Noem.
Mm.
She was what, a congresswoman or a senator?
She was governor,
Governor of
and
Montana.
I'm pretty sure she was a congresswoman before she became a governor, but she was definitely governor.
Whatever it was, she's fired.
Well, she's
Uh,
unemployed now.
well,
Yeah.
actually, no, that's not true. He actually sidestepped her and gave her like another role in the administration. They're not telling that story. But
Hmm.
earlier this week, Trump fired Kristi Noem, who was the Secretary of Homeland Security, and he announced it on his Truth Social platform, literally while she was on stage in Nashville at like a law enforcement conference. Like she was talking about, she was actually on stage talking about an event while he went on Truth Social and fired her. Basically, uh, he fired her because of a $220 million self promotional ad, right? That basically talked about the Minneapolis fallout. Um, he also fired her basically rumors of infidelity, constant feuding with ICE and Border Patrol, um, just basically the drama overshadowing the White House and him. And it just sounds like he fired her for the same reasons why he should not be president. So it makes no sense at all, right? Like,
Yeah, I think what I thought was most interesting about it was it shows he acts like he doesn't care, and they act like they are immune from public opinion and public pressure, but this actually demonstrates the opposite. Because the real reason she got fired was because they've lost a narrative on immigration. That was a strong suit for them. Um, they're not happy, not comfortable with how things played out, right, in Minneapolis. They didn't think she had a good handle on the situation. She was already being layered, there. And that's ultimately what did her in. And then she went in on Congress on Capitol Hill and
got embarrassed.
literally, and they saw that the grilling that she was getting was bipartisan. It was just as bad
I
from what the
mean,
Republicans were saying to it. Senator Kennedy, we don't agree on a lot of issues, but he's hilarious in many, many ways. And
Tillis,
he Tillis, all of them really kind of went in, and it was a bipartisan chorus. Like what? And so it just became a problem and a liability for the White House. But it starts with, again, the public opinion around immigration. And what that to me says is that people want to know, well, what tools do we have to keep fighting back? Well, you see it, right? Like people kept the pressure and the attention around the narrative around Minneapolis, and it ultimately resulted in them adjusting their policy. She got fired. And so one of the biggest things we can do as we kind of fight to reclaim power is to remember that public opinion still matters, right? It still impacts what they might do. But that more than anything is why she got the axe. Now, her replacement,
ain't no better.
hey,
Listen, listen. It
Mark Wayne. Let's start there. Two first names. Mark Wayne. Doesn't get much better the more you find out after that but that's the start, right? So you already know what this story about to be.
well, before we get to Mark Wayne, the MMA fighter,
Failed MMA fight.
that's right. I want to talk about that ass whooping Kristi Noem got, right? Like, do you remember that scene from Rush Hour, the first Rush Hour, when he's at the Chinese restaurant
Mhm.
and Chris Tucker gets kicked and he's like, which one of y'all
Which one of
kicked?
y'all kicked me? Yeah. Which one of y'all did that? Yeah.
She got a beat down, right?
She did.
And I'm gonna call Stu out because Stu sent us a text message and was like, "What we got to do to get a $143 million contract from the government?"
Yeah.
And the absurdity of her handing out over $220 million of taxpayer money to an unknown company and source that was incorporated 8 days prior to them receiving that
Right.
money
A no
is
bid
it
contract. Yep.
is ridiculous,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Is just and again in a time where you have people scratching and surviving out there just for
Mhm.
good times.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and on a administration that prided itself on bringing costs down and getting rid of wasteful government spending, created a whole department that has obliterated
Mhm.
our Department of Education, our CDC, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
things that help keep us safe and alive and educate us.
Mhm.
And here we are trying to justify $143 million of unknown government money, tax dollars. And she had no excuse for it, and then said the president knew about it, which even if he did, you're not supposed to do that. You supposed to
Right.
lay on the sword, baby girl.
That's a
You
part of
know,
it. Yep.
that is a part of it. And
Yep.
what did he do? Trump fashion, pure fashion. I don't know anything about it.
Yep.
But watch this,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was a combination of that. It was the contract, it was the private plane. It was the long rumored relationship with Corey Lewandowski, who is a senior advisor to Trump and his campaigns, and he's now a special employee, which is given a hell of a name to have when everybody thinks that you're there because you have a relationship going on with the secretary. And even that came into the hearing, right? Like they you she was asked specifically by a member of Congress, like, have you had sexual relations with him since you've been the secretary? And she wouldn't even just say no to that. She gave some bullcrap answer. Mind you, her husband is sitting right behind her. But she just couldn't say no even to that, because keep in mind they're under oath, and some of the protections that you have now that you're the secretary, you don't have those protections anymore when you're not. So you really want to be careful to not be lying under
What
oath.
well, I mean, she committed perjury.
So right,
So
and so was she, but that's what I'm saying. But so why wouldn't you just say no to a question like that? And the fact that she didn't, it's just like,
um I think Cory Booker was it Cory Booker said this is not gonna end well. This is not gonna end the way you think it's gonna end,
yeah, yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
and I think even my guy from Colorado,
Joe the Goose.
hey, he was like, your time is coming,
Yeah,
right?
it's coming.
I think we need to name this episode For Whom the Bell
For
Gnomes.
known to be, yeah. I mean, but she, but again, though, beyond all of that, right? Because nobody is just, surprised that, this that she ended up being a joke, right? She was a joke when she got it, but it does speak to the quality of folks that are being put forward by this administration. It's not about their particular knowledge of the issues. It's not about their whether or not they have the prerequisite, uh, experience to be able to hold these positions. It's all about loyalty and if you're gonna perform for the king. And that has real implications for the American people. And so, she didn't really have a background in it. She was a governor of a relatively small state before, was not steeped in these issues. Homeland Security is one of the most complicated agencies in the
Listen,
federal government.
it is 250,000 employees, right? It is FEMA, it is
Yep.
nuclear security, it is counterterrorism, it's
Border Patrol.
cybersecurity,
Yep.
border patrol.
Yep.
It's now going to be run by a former MMA fighter from Oklahoma who has never, ever ran any kind of agency, any federal agency, any any hiring agency in his
No.
entire life, right?
No. No. No.
And Trump described this as an upgrade, right? I think we've gone from Kristi Noem, where she was chaos and high heels. Now, two names. I'm gonna
Yep.
call them two names. Two names is chaos with a chokehold. You know what I'm saying? Like same chaos, just a different grip.
And I'm not even one of those people that believes that, like, education in and of itself, because there's a lot of educated people that,
Don't
as
have a
they say
degree.
in the South, educated, but they got no common sense, right? it's a lot of that going on here, but for this too, that's another thing too, like, you're talking about a guy that didn't finish college.
Which
Eh,
again,
I mean,
that is not a measurement
eh,
of his intellectual level, but in this case, he's shown that he's a fucking idiot. He's an imbecile.
I'm like, how did you become, and I don't wanna hear nothing else about DEI. Because
Nothing.
there is no minority or person of color that could have that same resume and be the secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and we've only had, one DHS secretary that was black, and that was Jay Johnson, a Morehouse man. Now go
Listen,
look up Jay's credentials and look up Mark Wayne's,
and you tell
and
me.
don't talk to me about DEI,
Well, so
okay?
so and I think this is a perfect transition into race, class, and gender, and in terms of the Texas primary, right? Like when we like, I love the way we sow this because again, you talk about, and I want people to be clear when you're checking a candidate's name on that ballot, that you're checking someone that you've looked up to see, are they the person for this job? Of the choices you have, are they credentialed enough and credible enough to be the person for this job? If they're
Mhm,
not, I mean, you got to go with what's there.
mhm,
Um, and I sort of want to set the framework of what we talked about in Texas. Texas is the first primary. And again, in my mind, all this stuff, what we see in terms of primary, what we capture on news, what the press talks about is building and setting the stage for narrative for the president's race in 2028.
mhm,
Also for what happens in um, policy wise, what gets pushed in Congress and what gets pushed on the state level, right? Um, Kevin, you and I have been doing this for over 20 years. Three things drive every race at every level, and that's race, class, and gender.
mhm.
Um, Not one in isolation, all three in combination, right?
Mhm,
Um, you have to understand how these three factors interact with one another for a specific race in a specific state at the
mhm,
specific moment and in time. And the results always make sense. And right. And I
mhm,
think this applies to what happened in Texas, right?
mhm,
When you look at it, James Taylor Rico, a white male, 36 years old, former teacher, was he Presbyterian seminary
mhm, mhm,
from a small, town in Texas,
mhm,
defeated Jasmine Crockett, a 44-year-old black congresswoman from Dallas, actually from Arkansas, now
mhm,
living in Dallas. Um, he beat her 53-45 in a Democratic Senate primary in record turnout, right?
mhm,
In
mhm.
record turnout, and this race has kind of been building since November, was it?
Later than that, I mean, Jasmine got in late,
Late.
and that's one of the things that I think contributed to her challenges. So this was a fast race.
Right. On paper, they were both identical in terms of policy.
Mhm,
They were both progressive. They were both social media savvy, both
mhm,
very sharp, very
mhm,
intelligent.
mhm,
The difference was entirely on strategy and styles.
mhm,
And this is where race, class, and gender became the story,
mhm,
right? The pure definition of, I would think, the problem, what we're facing in the Democratic Party, where
mhm,
you have a white man thinking that they're the savior,
mhm,
and then you have black women who think they are the answer,
mhm,
right? And instead of doing this or running a strong primary, right? We're now breaking down this in terms of what the data show and the mistakes that one candidate made versus um, the positives of another.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it also though could prove to be. I think we know the mistakes or the shortcomings of Jasmine's campaign are getting looked at now because she lost in the
Right,
primary, right?
right.
I think though Tellerico's shortcomings is not that he didn't have them. They just might not. They just might not come out or bear fruit until a little bit later. Now that he has to go into the general election, but my main takeaway from the race was we got to stop doing a couple things as a party. We got to stop putting our thumb on the scales in these primaries and letting these races actually play out, because a lot of what you just described, a big part of the reason what pushed that to the forefront and made us a little bit weaker going into this general election is because you had people trying to put their thumb on the scale, trying to say one candidate is more electable than the others, and that's what has to happen. Well, how can you say one candidate is more electable than the other and they haven't competed yet? How can you say that? And so when you do things like that, then you make people in the other camp kind of say, well,
Yeah,
then it must be about these other issues. Cause what are you, because polling wise, they was polling about the same.
about the
They had
same.
the same positions. And so we unnecessarily brought this division into this primary because people trying to put their thumb on the scales and pick candidates instead of just letting the race play out and letting the voters decide. Because here's the deal, if you can't win the primary, then you aren't the most electable candidate for the general.
Right.
And so let the primary play out, because it's only going to make whoever ultimately wins that much better, right? He is a better candidate and better prepared for the general election because he had to run against Jasmine Crockett.
Jasmine Crockett.
And the same would have been true for her had she won. She would have been much better, much prepared for it. And we went through this with the long primary with Barack and Hillary, right? Like he was a better candidate, right? He was better prepared because he had to stand up there on that stage night
And
after
take
night, month after month, trying to take out the Clintons. You know, a few years ago, that brother was in the state legislature. Okay. She helped prepare him to be able to be ready to be the nominee and ultimately president. And then I think about even like Madani. Madani is one of the few Democrats in the country right now that's actually owning Donald Trump, right? But y'all didn't want him either. Y'all tried to put y'all thumb on the scale in that race too. So stop.
and so we see it a lot. You and I definitely see a lot behind the scenes when we're doing a lot of these races
Hmm.
um, from state to state, right? Like I'm facing it right now
Hmm.
in Georgia with Christian and the labor campaign and sort of uh, summing up identity politics, right?
Yep.
This is where it really comes into play. And even, we talked about it last episode with Jesse Jackson when he ran for president and
Hmm.
him developing and creating a rainbow coalition. I guess this is a teachable moment here for our listeners. When you hear the term identity politics tossed around, you know, it refers to a political movement, okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, or campaigns that organize and appeal to voters primarily based on shared aspects of identity, race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, and identity politics in its simplest form, right? But here's the nuance about it. It isn't inherently good or bad, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
it's how you apply it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and how you use to organize real policy initiatives around it.
Hmm.
Or is it being used as a substitute for them?
Hmm.
So like when communities fight for representation, um, that's organizing around a shared experience.
Hmm.
When campaigns use identity as a wedge uh, to avoid class and economic conversations, that's when it becomes a liability.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we saw both versions here in Texas.
Hmm.
Um, so, like, I mean, think of it this way: if you ever been told vote for this person because they look like you,
Mhm,
that's identity politics,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Um, and it's part of I it. It's a give and take. You use
Yep.
it to the best of your ability and you use it to your advantage.
Mhm,
But if you also apply real policy and solutions behind it to where your voters can understand and the voters you are appealing to can understand and organize around it, right?
yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to organize and build around it.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately was the downfall for Jasmine's race because she didn't do it. She didn't continue to organize and have actual field strategy around her identity as a progressive, intelligent, smart Black woman.
Yeah, I think that, and I think again, like a lot of that too could be because of when she entered into the race, right? There needed to be that she needed to be able to do more work to define herself with the coalition, and to go beyond that sort of baseline piece of information that people had about her. And I just think ultimately she wasn't able to do that. Like I said, again, a part of it is Texas is a huge state, and she kind of she got into the race late, whereas Tallarico, he had been in the race a lot longer. He had been cultivating what he saw as his pathway, which was going to be um, white voters and Hispanic voters. Keep in mind, when he first started out, he was running against Colin Allred, so they just kind of assumed, like his strategy never centered around black voters, right? Because at first Colin Allred was in it, and then it just switched to Jasmine. So he started out and spent much, much more time being better financed and cultivating what he thought was going to be his coalition, and it never included black voters. And so Colin didn't really take off, ended up dropping out of the race. Jasmine comes into the race late, and not only does she not really get the opportunity to try to make inroads with black and Hispanic voters, right? She didn't really get a chance to really bolster herself up with black voters. And if you look at even the places where she did well, and you look at the margin that she lost by, even in the places where she did well, there were significant numbers of black voters that were still left on the table because they still didn't know
And
about her, or they knew she was in it, but they hadn't in their mind. They're like, yeah, I don't know what she's for though, so.
see, here's where identity politics and the problem that I have with it, right? Oh, excuse me. And I say this about the Doug Jones race.
Hmm.
And one of the things that kind of upset me about it is the narrative that came out of Doug Jones was Black women won the race for him. Yes, that's true, but also Black men. So
Hmm.
Black people won to help win the race for him.
Hmm.
And the narrative was, it came out that Black women are the backbone of the party. And it created this narrative that elect me because I'm a Black woman and that's it. And I hated that because there's more to it. Why is this Black woman the one? Because of her qualifications, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
If someone asked me right now who would I want to be the governor of Georgia,
Hmm.
I would say none of the people in the race. I would say Rosalind Brewer,
Rosalind Brewer.
who is a Black woman who is now president of Spelman College.
Hmm.
But before that, she served as CEO for Starbucks, Walmart, Walgreens, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
the woman is smart, talented, she's experienced, she knows she can get the job done, right?
Right.
And so you list the qualifications, right? And so I think the press and the narrative make it sound like, oh well, elect me just because I'm a Black woman and that's it.
Yeah.
For voting, it needs to be more than that. And so I'm going to kind of walk through sort of like the crosstab data of what this means because I think some people
Well,
here
before you do that though, let me just say though too, it cuts both ways, right? Because this
it
guy
does
was a state rep. He was a state rep. She was a congresswoman, had been in the state legislature, civil rights attorney. This notion, if it's not about identity, then how do you look at both of them and just come to the conclusion before they've competed at all that he's the more electable? So it cuts, it's dangerous across the board, right? Would be my point. Sometimes it's dangerous because it can lead candidates to feeling like they that to missing out on additional work that they need to do to firm up their coalition. And then other times it can lead to problems because people end up giving their support to folks that ain't put in no work. Because keep in mind what I just said. Everybody wants folks to coalesce around this guy, and I get it, and I understand the reasons why. But he still ain't talked to black people.
right.
His whole
Well,
strategy from the beginning was to I'm not even going to really bother talking to black people, but they want you to just give your support to him because he's the more electable, but based on what? And
But
if
see,
you say it's not his race and gender, come on.
but here again, this is why it's important to run your race knowing all the intangibles and everything you need to know,
Yeah.
right? And her failures and his failures ultimately became his success, and her failures.
I would say his success for now. They still, if they continue the same course, if they don't do some course correction on their end, he does not have a shot in the general because they have run a campaign so far to the exclusion of black people. And if he's going to have a real shot of winning this race in Texas, he's going to have to add, not just add the people that turned out for Jasmine. You're going to have to even go a layer thicker and even get some of the folks that even she wasn't able to turn out for herself. Some of those folks that didn't even come to vote for Kamala as well. And you know as well as I do, inside these campaigns, oftentimes there are not people of color who understand the electorate and who can make that case to them, and there's also a resistance to investing the necessary resources because they
So
just see us as voters that are just going to turn out anyway when they need to be looking at us like what we are, which is swing voters. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to vote for Republicans, but we absolutely may not show up to vote for you. Be you black, white, whatever. We
right, and
may stay home.
and because I think some people heard a black woman lost and stopped there.
Yeah,
The reality is more uh, instructive than that, right? Like,
yeah.
let's break down three factors on
Hmm.
race. Tallarico led voters 71-29. He led Hispanic voters 60-39. Crockett led black voters 80-18, a dominant margin. But black voters alone were not a large enough share of the Democratic primary
Hmm.
to overcome these deficits. And so
Hmm.
on gender, Crockett led 51-48.
Hmm.
Tallarico led men 58-41. On class, Tallarico coalition was built on higher income, college educated Democrats, plus suburban and rural outreach.
Hmm.
Crockett's was just concentrated in urban areas,
Hmm.
right? And I think, again, when you don't have a field program, like that could have been her strategy, but there was also no field program, real boots on the ground program to apply to that.
Hmm.
The other stark difference we know is white candidates are always more well funded than black candidates. Now, true enough, Tellerico raised 20 million, over 20 million since September. Crockett, who did get in the race late, raised 3.7 million after her December entry. Plus, she transferred 4.8 million from her house account. That's still a huge financial gap right there.
Yes.
And you cannot build a Texas wide organization on that difference of fundraising.
Yeah. Yeah. But
You,
why was he the more safe investment from the start? If it's ain't identity, right? Because that's what they want to say. They want to say you guys can't make it about race and all this other stuff. Okay, well then what was it? This
well,
state rule. Well, why does he
I,
get so many more millions? Why is the
I,
party so much ready to invest in him?
the issue there was she got in the race late. And you and I both know you cannot be a candidate of color and get in the race 3 months out before the
Yes.
primary and think that you can raise enough money. And I've actually done that with candidates, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
we've gotten to a race super late, and just to overcome that narrative and try to explain to why and fight and have to fight and scratch for every dime and nickel,
Right.
right? It's beyond it because once a person dedicates themselves to a candidate, it's very hard to get them to flip, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard to get them to donate or give money.
And my only point why I always try to point that out to people is that we got to understand that there structurally is different for candidates of color. Like you said, it's difficult to get into a race late like that, generally in Texas, but especially if you are a candidate of color, because there's this entrenched and inherent, despite the majority of our voters being black and brown and minority, there is still this entrenched resistance to assessing us as candidates Simply just assess us on our qualifications just like you would anybody else. And if that was all she was being assessed on, there's no way you come to the conclusion that he gets all the money and she doesn't.
Right. Right.
Right? So that's what I want us to stop. When I say stop putting our thumb on the scale in these primaries, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about because what happens is you create all these divisions within the coalition that we need to win. Now you got black folks in Texas with a bad taste in their mouth. You got Jasmine Crockett donors who got introduced to this race from outside of Texas because of her. She could be an asset and go to them and raise additional money for him, but they got a bad taste in their mouth because of the party meddling instead of just letting them compete, right? And we continue to do this to put our thumb on the scales, and it's to the detriment, almost always, it is to the detriment of minority candidates. And so we as a party have to get comfortable with the idea that black folks don't want to just be participants and consumers, right? We actually want to sit there and be at the table and make some decisions too, as
So
candidates and strategists.
very much so. I think the other argument that I'm going to have here as a strategist, putting on my strategist hat,
Mhm.
right? Like, Kevin, you're not a card player. You don't really play cards.
I
Um,
don't I play I don't play spades, and this is a whole nother episode that we can get into it. Culturally, we are abusive. I don't like
stop,
how we treat our own.
stop, stop,
If
stop,
you,
stop,
you know, if
stop,
you not
stop.
as
No,
fast with the stuff like that. So it's not
listen,
that I don't play cards, I just don't do spades with y'all.
but
I don't do it. Y'all are
so in
it needs to stop. The way y'all
but
as a culture,
stop.
the way we treat each other, it needs to stop.
Listen, Negro. If your ass plays spades, if you play spades, you be on this side talking about. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm getting at is for the card players out there, anybody who plays cards, whether it's spades, bid whist, tunk, blackjack, poker, before you play cards, you set the rules. The rules are set. And once the rules are set, you abide by those rules. In the game of politics or campaigns or elections, the rules are always set before you. And one of the things they tried to call out was the um, election wide. Dallas County eliminated the county-wide voter centers for the primary,
Mhm.
forcing precinct-specific voting. Right, which means Jasmine Crockett lost hundreds of her votes. They were turned away or misdirected on election day.
Mhm.
They tried to get an injunction. A judge ordered the extension of hours. Crockett filed legal action, all of that. But you knew all of this beforehand. The rules are set beforehand.
Mhm.
And as strategists, we always need to employ strategy for the campaign for the rules and to see what can happen down the line, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
We use this in Doug Jones's race, where we use early voting to our advantage. There wasn't early voting in Alabama, but you could early vote, right? You just had to have an excuse. And so if you were a college student, that is your excuse. If you're old and have, mobility issues, that's an excuse. And we use that to our advantage.
I
In this case, what?
No, I'm just saying I know that was very tricky to do because it's just like, "Hey, just have
But
an excuse." But you gotta almost whisper it because you don't wanna put them
right,
on
you
to
don't
what
want
you
to.
doing.
I mean, we also used it. We flipped the script. That's why vote by mail is something that Republicans are trying to destroy,
Mhm.
because we used their tactic of voting by mail against them. And
Mhm.
that's how we were able to flip certain states, i.e., Georgia,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We used it to our advantage. And so, you know, Crockett calling the electability argument a dog whistle, a pro Tallarico super PAC ad, literally said if she wins, we lose. Um, call it straight up racist. I will tell you both things can be true at the same time.
Mhm.
And that is a part of the game. And we use it to our advantage sometimes, and it works. We win. But if it loses, we try to use it as an excuse. And how they both are can what separates real political analysis from political narrative.
Mhm.
And we need
Mhm.
to be cognizant of that, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Oh,
to everybody out there, if you're running, if you're a strategist, right? Like, look at everything and put the cards on the table and be honest about your situation.
Mhm. Yeah. And again, I think her not being successful now, while all of these things that we just talked about were at play, right, around the identity politics, race, gender, all of that absolutely was at play in this race. I think ultimately, though, the reason she fell out short is she just got in too late.
Very much so. Very
I
much
think
so.
I think that's generally the gist of it. She got in too late, and when you look at where she was when the race started versus where she was at the end, very little had changed. She was largely in the same place. She had support where she had support. She had her deficits where she had deficits. She ran the campaign for those months, and materially nothing changed. You know, and so I think that that more than anything is the biggest thing of it, but I also, you know, the other stuff too, though, the party needs to kinda keep that stuff at the forefront and not
At
sweep it
the
under the rug,
Right.
and we need to be real about some of that, and then the last thing I'll say about the race too that stuck out to me is, I thought about Georgia, and the reason I thought about Georgia was twofold, and to your point about strategists, right? I think again, if you advise Keisha Lance Bottoms, like folks have heard me say on the show like multiple times, I was just like, she got two strikes against her. I don't know that they're gonna nominate another woman after Kamala and Stacey. What happened them not carrying the state. And then there's also Atlanta, right? Atlanta is great, but the rest of the state hates Atlanta. And she's running as a mayor of Atlanta. And so here it is, you see the less qualified upstart, right? Just beat this very credentialed, qualified black woman in a Southern primary. So I feel like you can't underestimate those dynamics, right? If you're advising Keisha Lance Bottoms. And then the other thing that I thought about too about Georgia was I thought about Raphael Warnock. People that have heard me talk on the show have heard me kind of hope that he looks at a presidential run what Tallarico is doing, how he's weaving in democratic messaging with the Bible and
Uh-huh.
how effective that is as a
Mhm.
method of communication to build a coalition. I'm looking at that and I think for me what I saw is you go back to like 2004 and you saw Obama's speech and how well those themes tested out. And then that ended up kind of being what he carried forward in 2008. I think we're seeing in Texas with Tallarico the bones of what messaging would look like with Raphael Warnock.
Yeah.
And look at how well Tallarico did with white and Hispanic voters. And you know Warnock will be able to do well with black voters. I'm just saying like, look at that messaging and think about, now what could that look like if our nominee was this Southern preacher?
Yeah. 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 Listen, this is the dynamic that a lot of people don't understand when it comes
Mhm,
to campaigns and politics, right? Like,
mhm.
there are Democrats who still believe a black woman cannot win certain white voters, right? And that's real bias. That has real consequences. Anyone who pretended um, that wasn't in the room and is not being honest. The same can be said. Listen, there are Democrats who believe that a white male voter can't win over certain black voters,
I think
right?
that's crazy.
Right?
In part because you and I have had to do it so many multiple times, but how many times have you been in situations as a black strategist and your candidate is white and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know if I should campaign in the black neighborhood because there's a black candidate there and should we go?"
So
"Yeah.
what?
Yeah, you should go."
Listen, I remember arguing this in Warren rooms
Mhm.
about that, but it actually wasn't about that. It was about us going into uh, Republican communities.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm.
And we did an event in West Virginia, and it was a success. It was a success, right? Like, you have to go into the
Mhm.
lion's den,
Mhm.
right? I
Mhm.
mean, to be biblical about it,
Yeah.
right? If you want to test the fires, you have to go into the den and stare the lion in the mouth.
Yep. And be willing to engage, and to your point, like, put policy, put meat on the bones, And you'll see because it's been several races. Look, man, I've been on both sides of it. I've been on sides where I had the white candidate, and we won the black vote against other black candidates because they didn't put no meat on the bones. They just thought I could just show up and be black and I'm going to get the black vote. Don't play
Right.
black voters like that. That's not true. That's not exactly how it works. And then also, I've been on other sides of it where I had the black candidate and got my butt whipped by a white candidate in the black community
Right.
because we was on the wrong side of
Right.
of some stuff, right? And
It's
so, y- you
it's
know,
again, there are several ways to solve a math problem.
yep.
And elections is purely one thing, math.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
boils down to math. And
Mm-hmm.
what is your formula for this voter, this voter, this voter?
Mm-hmm.
In primaries, it's different because you're running in your specific party.
Mm-hmm.
And in a Democratic primary, in this sense, Crockett's strategy was base mobilization. She wanted to turn out new voters. She wanted to energize, urban cities, while Tallarico was persuasion, right? And he courted disaffected and dissatisfied Trump voters, right? And he wanted to complete harder in red districts. And both are viable theories, but if you do not have the resources to invest in your strategy,
Yeah.
then you can't win. And again, the problem for black candidates will boil down to the first thing, and that is, do you have the money?
Yep. And how do you kinda navigate that up against people are just naturally not inclined to invest in you because they assume because you are a minority that you are not as electable, you know?
Right, right.
So it's a give and a take, but all of that leads to, like you said too, which again to me goes back to the top line of why I think she ultimately fell short. A big part of the reason, time. You
Time.
needed time to do the money. You need time to do the infrastructure. Money's a part of the infrastructure. And she needed time to really expand her brand outside of where she was already known. But even within the space where she was known, she needed time to put meat on the bones, to actually articulate what she was for, what she actually wants to do as a United States senator. And Tallarico, to his credit, was always just very clear about that. And he's gonna have to keep that energy moving forward. He's gonna have to get into black communities with that as well to have a shot. But I do think that where things stand right now, look, we have our strongest chance that we've had probably in our lifetimes to pick up a Senate seat in Texas.
Yeah. So, I think this also tells us a lot about 2026, 2028, and beyond, right?
Hmm.
Texas was the first Democratic primary for the 2026 midterm. It is sending the signal, the signal has been sent to Democratic primary voters in competitive states. You're voting about electability math over identity symbolism.
Hmm.
And even when your candidate is objectively more qualified and more nationally known, right? Sometimes it doesn't matter if you don't have the resources and the strategy to invest in that.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think people need to watch the state legislator races, right? Like, we need to pay attention, right? All of this weaves on a national level, right? Like here in states like Georgia and over in North Carolina, they can't win if the down ballot races aren't doing as well either. And so I want parties, state parties, national parties to be aware of that. All of this is needed and we need to really pay attention. I think this episode has run its course a little bit too long. Um, so I think we want to move to our Mamba moment. And I actually want to give mine to Jasmine Crockett. And here's why. In all of what happened, what stays with me about her race is she lost that primary. And she showed up the next day and handed that ass whooping to Kristi Noem, right? And then she endorsed the party's nominee, committed her resources to down ballot races. And this is a behavior of a player who is not a loser. She understands what it means to be in the game and the fight. and what happens in this primary. And her party needs her not only just in the state of Texas, but nationally. I think we need to kind of rally behind her and get her into the fold of messaging and strategy, and really try to build off of the momentum she set forward and make her an example of how we're supposed to act moving forward.
I would agree. I actually was gonna give mine to Jasmine Crockett too. I know you always say I copy you, but yeah, I wanna give it to her as well. And my fear when she decided to run, my fear was that, I didn't wanna lose her voice, right, in Congress. And so I'm still hopeful that even though she wasn't successful in this race, that we still have her at the table in some way, um, advocating, because she is important, she is needed, she is necessary, she is a voice that needs to be heard that connects. And this is why again, I don't like to putting the thumb on the scale in these races instead of just not letting them play out because a lot of her folks are her supporters. I said the same thing about Montani. Like, why would we be against expanding our coalition and our base? But they watch how you treat their folks, and it wasn't necessary. It's not necessary to put your thumb on these scales. Let these races play out so that we can build our coalition in the end around
Yep.
whoever is the strongest,
Yep.
candidate, but she, despite all those headwinds, is doing what she's always done, right? She's a trooper and she's standing up and she's speaking out. And you're right. She got right back to work the next day. Like, what's up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started we opened this episode about Atlanta. We gonna end it about Atlanta. I want to give a special shout out to my homegirl. I call her Uncle Bernie. I'm not gonna say her full name out. She's from Detroit, but she been living in Atlanta her entire life. Y'all saw me drinking from this mug.
Yeah.
She got this for my birthday and sent it to me as a surprise. 25th anniversary of Stankonia. I appreciate you, Uncle Bernie. You my road dog, my best friend. You claim you from Detroit, but you are, a ATLian. You named your son Phoenix. You stole that name from me, by the way, but you named your son Phoenix. So I appreciate you. We appreciate you guys, right? Like, and everything. Well, this episode ran long, but I think it was a pretty good episode. Uh, Damn good. All our episodes are good episodes. Fuck what you're talking about. Any parting words, Kev, before we jump off this platform?
No, man. We'll be back next week, and at the rate we've been going, who the hell knows what we'll be talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe who
Yeah.
knows?
Appreciate y'all. Much love. Y'all, be safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.